So, welcome to the Salmon Research and Monitoring Interest Group, Introduction to RDA Members and Working Group Development. Um, as you guys know, this meeting is being recorded, and the link to the minutes is in the chat. Can I rely on you guys to put that link in for me? Is that okay? And I'd like to note also that we will be conducting this meeting under the RDA Code of Conduct, which are available on the RDA website. I'm also going to share the Menti. Can I access the chat whilst I'm sharing my screen? So, share some of this stuff before I started. Let me just stop the sharing and
yeah, it is hard fun as a menu bar when you screen sharing.
I thought I'd be able to access some of the links to paste. So I have a Menti poll, which is really just kind of an icebreaker poll. I will back to this slideshow. I completely lost my slideshow now. You can tell this is my first plenary session that I've ever posted. I will share again. So I have a Menti poll. I've just posted a link there in the chat. There's just a few questions in here, and really just icebreaker questions. So if everybody feels free to go through these, there's 3 questions at your own pace whilst I go through the presentation, that would be fine. I'll share again. So my name's Graham Dyack. I'm data specialist with the Atlantic Salmon Trust in the UK. And we have started this salmon research and data and research and monitoring data interest group alongside my colleagues Lara Erickson from the USA, who works with as a program manager with the Pacific States Marine Fisheries Commission in Oregon. Alexis Knight, who's a coordinator of the Atlantic Salmon Research Joint Venture at Fisheries and Oceans Canada in New Brunswick. And she's the Atlantic side here, moving my towards the Atlantic side here. And Tom Bird, who is a research scientist at Fisheries Oceans, a research scientist for fishery and assessment data, also with Fisheries and Oceans Canada, but he's out here in British Columbia. So we're spread around the globe, but we could definitely do with more chairs, which I'll touch on later on. So why did we start this interest group? So basically, for 5 years now, I've been working with salmon research data. And back in the COVID times, we started a group, an online group, where we were discussing sharing of data and how to standardize data. And that kind of sprouted into a synthesis paper as part of the International Year of the Salmon. There was the closing symposium took place in 2023 for that event, and we were invited to basically write a paper on salmon data mobilization. And the paper itself has been published now in the North Pacific and Admiral's Fish Commission's bulletin just last year, and it outlines the reasons and requirements for salmon data mobilization as critical to inform our approach to salmon conservation and recovery. Outlines 3 recommendations, each aimed at a different set of stakeholders, and those stakeholders being policy and governance, and the middle ground of funders and supporting infrastructure, and then the kind of grassroots of the community itself. So some of you attending may have a good idea of what salmon data is, or you may not. But basically, it's the data that we collect on salmon at the audit points, such as migration points, leaving the river, entering the river, captures at sea, along with the juvenile surveys at the top of the rivers. The salmon life cycle is basically starts in the freshwater up the headwaters, and they mature, swim out to sea, and then return to spawn back at usually their same natal rivers. And salmon data is that data, so it's the data of the actual salmon itself, but it's also the data collected by other disciplines around salmon and their biological processes of their prey and predators and their physical environment of the oceans and the rivers. And it is broad scope and multidisciplinary. That's one of the key things to salmon data. They bring together a lot of different disciplines, and each one can have relevance to salmon at a different stage of its life. So it's abundant, broad in scope, and cross-discipline. And it's complicated. So as demonstrated by this graphic from some of the many papers that try to deal with the complexities of the salmon life cycle. So as part of the paper that we produced, we had a number of recommendations, and the recommendation number 3 was aimed at the community. And we believe an essential component of successful data mobilization would be the existence of a peer support network that facilitates regular engagement, transparent communication, and inclusive processing, and to inspire collaboration and knowledge sharing. And that community can be a resource for skill development and training to keep up with technology and share existing toolkits and knowledge so that best practices are developed and persist. And so that basically brought us to the Research Data Alliance, and we were actually torn between Research Data Alliance or the ESIP groups, which is the Earth Science Information Program. I can never remember, but they were quite a strong and active group in North America, and we considered creating a kind of a group within that infrastructure, but we were drawn to the RDA because of it seemed to be a more global community, and also ESIP had representation within the RDA already as well. So we felt that coming to the RDA with the 6 guiding principles, and it just felt like kind of the right place to come together and create an interest group with the infrastructure that's available there. Obviously, I'm probably preaching to the converted here, but it's worth noting that we did look around to see what other communities were available. So what our aims are with this, our interest group, is we want to, first of all, we want to create one that has 8 chairpersons. As I showed you in the map earlier on, we have 3 in kind of North America and 1 in myself in the UK. But we do want to expand that, so we have 8 chair people. If we basically cross 2 oceans, we're in the Atlantic and we're in the Pacific, and ideally we would have 2 people at each side of those oceans. And we have, that's kind of one of our first goals, but we are trying to establish some kind of a baseline of work before we've tried branching out before and didn't get much response. So we're trying to basically make a baseline of work. So we're going to forge ahead with the people we have and prove some proof of concepts that the community works. We want to work as a social network and link ideas across time zones. And also, once we have those 8 chair people, potentially we could have chapters, a Pacific and Atlantic chapter. And then we would, it seems strange that we might try to divide into 2, but it means we might be able to work better across many time zones. And as long as there's always a link between the chair people of what's happening, a communication link. So we want to first learn from the RDA community. So there are lots of interest groups already and working groups in progress, and we are looking to the community itself. So you guys to help kind of teach us what tools are already available, what thinking has already been thought, and what can we use that's already available within the RDA community, because there is a lot of stuff available. And we don't want to reinvent the wheel. So we want to basically employ existing collaboration strategies already developed within this community. And we want to develop tools and processes that can be shared in return. So we do have a GitHub available that we've started, which is kind of most of the people in our group seem to be, or at least most of the chairs seem to be quite familiar with GitHub. But it's one of those places you can come together and do a lot of different things, whether it's coding or simply just version control for any kind of work. It's a powerful tool. So we want to basically work on that and then feed back into the community with that kind of open development. And so we want to use the RDA infrastructure in the way we're kind of approaching it. I think maybe slightly differently to how it's meant to be used, but we kind of put this forward at the very start. We create the interest group as a pool of people, a large pool of people, and it's open-ended. And we want people just to join, to express their interest in the topic. And then we want to bud off working groups from that larger pool. So we want working groups to be smaller subset of people who are interested in some particular topic and to really focus in on that topic. So basically a working group is the interest group output generation tool. And as you guys might know, the RDA working groups are clear, concise goals and outputs, short term, so 12 to 18 months. They do have an independent structure from the interest group, but we do want to keep them within the kind of umbrella of the interest group. And at the moment, we are kind of in that open call for working group topics stage. We have some proposed topics already. The Salmon Ontology Working Group, Monitoring Methods Ontology Working Group, Migration Data, Timing Data, Index Rivers, and Long-Term Monitoring Data. They're some of the ones that have been put forward when we did have a kickoff meeting just before Christmas. But the ideas can be obviously limitless, and we really want the community to kind of push things forward. And we do have regular meetings already set up, and I've put posts in the interest group landing page on the RDA website. If you join the group, you'll be able to see them. I've kept those posts visible only to members of the group because they do include meeting invites and downloadable calendar files. So we have our interest group regular meeting, which is every 6 weeks and starts at the end of this month. We have kind of technically already started this because this interest group has morphed out of a previous, or like as I described, previous kind of group. But basically we have that meeting kind of officially starting this month. And we also actually have started our first working group topic meeting, which it's not, basically this working group is developing the charter for an official RDA working group. So we call it a salmon ontology working group, but we haven't actually developed the charter yet. But that's basically what this meeting will be working on for the first few instances. And these frequencies could change. At the moment, this is what they're set as, but the ontology working group has already met, and one of the first things was we need to make these more frequent, and we need to find a good platform to discuss on. So that we're talking about discussing things on Slack or on Teams or on some other platforms. And at this point, I'd like to look at the Menti results. If I just end slideshow, and if there was more of us, there'd probably be more interesting
Yeah,
results.
so
Yeah.
possibly with just two of us participating.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I'll
I
just
pushed the answer to the first question, and then but
I suppose I should do mine. So I'm in ecology, so you guys
okay.
can see me doing it live. Um, I'm in IT and data. I guess that's my kind of three things. And I'm sharing it.
So I'm feeling it as well. So my background is from computer science, IT, but my work now cover all disciplines.
Yeah, yeah. So do you specialize in any particular domain at all, or do you just are you kind of support across the research, kind of the whole research?
Um, So I come from background of how people from information science, how people search for information. Now the data discovery, specialize in data discovery. So how do you describe data and set up a system in a way for people easy to find your data? That's so I
Yeah.
chair. Co-chair interest group, data discovery paradigm interest group.
Hmm.
But as my nature of my work is more support all research areas. So because I'm working for Australia Research Data Commons, it's we gather data from all disciplines to support Australian researchers.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. I should show you then at the end of the presentation. I'll because I'm going to go back. I've still got a few more slides. I'll maybe show you that some of the tools I've been working on, which are definitely in that kind of data discovery side of
Yes.
things.
And also, we also host product called Research Vocabulary Australia. So if any research group or organization, they have, vocabulary or from vocabulary to ontology,
Yeah.
to publish, then yeah, we also encourage people share their
Mhm.
vocabularies and yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'd be interested then to find out if there's yeah, much in the kind of realm of salmon and things like that, because that's definitely what
Mm.
we're looking for. So yeah, it's just the two of us. So I'll just carry on with the rest of the presentation then, because I think there might be some of the work that we've done on that ontology working group that you might be quite interested in.
Yeah.
And Faris has left us because he had to leave after 20 minutes. Right, so the working group that we have kind of got unofficially up and running is the Salmon Ontology Working Group. So in the second half of 2024, around about the same time as we were actually putting together our interest group charter, we were also kind of planning, we were all the discussions on a salmon ontology, which have been ongoing for years, kind of started to kind of come together, and planning was in place for an ontology working group, which took place during the American Fisheries Society's annual meeting in March 2025. So the title was Fishing for Clarity Workshop, and the goals were to bring together salmon data practitioners to share their work and to demonstrate a knowledge and modeling approach to this. And it was supported by those folks at NCs, again, the knowledge modelers from NCs. So during the workshop, we looked at some existing salmon data mobilization efforts, from data cleaning, Pacific Salmon Foundation, Solve Consulting and Fisheries and Ocean Canada, through to data linkages through knowledge graphs. We only have one written there, SalHub, but there was another one, I forget the name of it, the salmon knowledge graph, probably. We had some presentations and ran a knowledge modeling exercise, bringing together some existing vocabularies to try to begin building some bridges between them. So one of the first exercises was a concept decomposition, which was used to tease out the detail which often lie behind ecological audit points. So, for example, the population group here is decomposed into a lot of different actual specific observations. And the context around these measurements determines whether they can be compared or combined to answer research questions. And then the second task of the working group was hierarchical clustering, which links those concepts to each other. And I'll admit now, this was kind of beyond me, a little bit over my head, but the guiding hand from NCs was very powerful, and we did make a bit of a headway. It was a tough assignment, and there were some successes, but some blind alleys as well. We used Mural to put together some of these graphics, and it was like I say, it kind of we did find some kind of successes, like some of the things shown here, linkages, but all very kind of on Mural and kind of in a non-structured way, more visual way. So the next steps, we do want to build an official salmon ontology, and there is already one in existence, built by NCs for a specific use case of data that was brought together as part of the State of Alaska Salmon and People project. And that ontology is already published on BioPortal and is very powerful and useful, and it has I believe I've heard people even across in Europe are linking into it. But we want to build out from that work and create one that is more generalizable to salmon research. And another part of the work that our group is involved in is kind of a follow-up paper from the salmon data mobilization paper that came out of the International Year of the Salmon workshop. The International Year of the Salmon paper. Is the best practices guide, and that's being led by Brett Johnson, and is in prep just now. And it's basically taking from our kind of building upon our 3 recommendations, and putting together a guidelines for salmon data specialists. So very much something that fits in with the RDA ethos. This could possibly build out to another working group, or it might be a separate thing. But everybody's free to become involved in this. If you want to be a member of our interest group, then Brett is available to contact for that. And that is the end of my slides. So I did hope to go to a discussion now on some of these things, some of the, cross interest group, kind of ideas and things like that. But we're not going to be able to do that. So I'm happy to demonstrate some of the tools to you, Ming-Fan, if you want, some of the things that I've been involved in.
Yeah, so it's good to show some tools because we are recording this. People will watch. There may be people watch later.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the first things, so this is very much from my perspective. I'm able to kind of demonstrate some of these things, I guess. But I'll start with the workshop output that I just covered. So this is the mural that we created. There was three main sets of vocabulary that we were building from. As you can see, everybody kind of got to slightly different, and we broke out into three groups to decompose these, and we got to various stages. The slide deck, I guess I was going to show, I had this ready to show in case anybody asks more about that. So this is an example of the concept decomposition. You have a measurement type, and you might decompose that into three actual kind of measurable attributes, and then a hierarchical clustering with an example there. And again, these were developed by Shirley Stephen in NC's. And some of the stuff that I've directly been involved in actually developing. So this feeds back to what you mentioned about the what was it, the kind of discoverability aspect of data. So one of the earliest things that we created it was this. So I was involved in a project called the Like the Suspects Framework project, where basically we needed to try and figure out what data was available and what questions that data could answer. So we basically built this shiny web interface, which puts lots of data sources in the context of the salmon themselves. So all the data that's registered here, there's no data on this, it's just a metadata catalog, a data registry really. But all the data that's on this basically relates to salmon in some way. So an obvious one here is river flow in an Irish river. And it's basically written up, and a lot of them are linked to the data online, the original site. But you can actually filter these to specific salmon data themes. And this is kind of where we built a bit of a vocabulary here to categorize these data. So, for example, if I wanted to look at any data set that could tell me something about egg deposition, then I could narrow the search results down to those data sets that could show me something about that. So freshwater fish surveys, one of the big ones over here is the international, no, I can't remember the acronym, ICES, but basically International Council for the Exploration of the Seas, produce reports every year. So these 7, 8 data sets are grouped together on this egg deposition. But we also have quite a lot of other ideas that might group together. So conditions, some of the surveys here might have information on the smolt conditions as a juvenile fish as it's leaving the river. And what we did was to get this information, we created a form. We'll log in. So we created a form that people could basically upload, describe a data set that they know of or a data set that they're in control of. Put all these things, title, abstract, is it available online, put a URL, update frequencies, contact details. Then they could go on to define it in a geographical area and a temporal scope. And then finally the kind of the main kind of meat of the indexing is this here. So this is our kind of vocabulary laid out in almost kind of like a network. So if the data set is a freshwater data set, then it might cover all of these 3 domains because these are freshwater domains. And then once you select those domains, it opens up the actual vocabularies that apply to those domains. So freshwater, so dissolved oxygen, freshwater, avian population, so that's a predator aspect, or prey, fish population dynamics and ecology, or the actual salmon traits themselves. So we have these 3 physical, biological, and salmon trait itself. And behind this, basically, this is represented in a knowledge graph, and the the links between the domains and the vocabulary is kind of a network, as you'd imagine. And then once a data set is registered, submitted, then it becomes part of that graph as well. It becomes a node in the graph, and it's kind of connected. So yeah, this might be something that I should show
So,
to
yeah, can I ask a question? So that's great. So this data source, the capture, so is that for like individual observation or measurement to be described here? Or if I just wonder if someone, capture data somewhere, they don't want to manually fill in this, but probably you have a schema or somewhere for people,
Yeah,
to
I think
describe the data in a batch mode, then upload their metadata and the data into
yeah.
oh, by the way, is this just the metadata hub, or do you for people upload the oh, you capture
So
all data in this form? Okay.
yeah, so we have to answer the first question,
Yeah.
there's not just now something that will allow somebody to batch upload. However, all of these fields, all of the fields in these first 2 boxes are EML fields, ecological metadata language fields. So what I actually have is I'll open up the knowledge network for biocomplexity. So KMB was one of the first tools I kind of researched and discovered for doing this work. And if I can sign in, what I did was I basically aligned, when I was building this tool, I aligned the metadata language with EML, which is the same metadata language that is used in KMB and across like GBIF and things like that. So I am able to, so the idea, I actually developed this in 2022, and the idea was we would develop it more, and it would become more kind of automated and more kind of interactive. But it's not quite got there yet, but hopefully we still will be able to. But basically, a lot of the data sets that are represented in SalHub here. Let's reset these filters. Are also represented in KMB, and it's the same. I use so I as the admin, I'm able to access the kind of background infrastructure, and I'm able to run an R script that essentially synchronizes these two resources, and that has the advantage of that we can take advantage of the DOIs that KMB offers. But one kind of weakness in this is that I've not been able to develop it much, and also a lot of the data sets that are described here have been described by myself or my colleagues, not by the data experts themselves. So what we want to do is we want to kind of make this more a resource that people use. However, that old thing of reinventing the wheel has kind of, sprung up a little bit, and the SalHub is a good resource, but I think in hindsight we probably would be doing better to go down the route of some existing infrastructure already. But that's something we're going to abandon as such, because it does have quite a good graph network built into the back end. We use Neo4j, and it's still, I think, a valuable resource for people to just move this control, people to kind of still interact with, and we're hoping to kind of build on it. And the other side of it is the vocabulary that we have behind all the filters. That's one thing that should hopefully build into the ontology work. And then to answer the question about the data, we do have a file drop function. So people are able to, so if they're describing like a kind of static data set that maybe is, has been created and there's nothing going to be added to it, then this is a good place to describe it and drop it. And if it's, there's a side limit of 25 megabytes here, so not very big, but it's a good place to have CSV files, Excel files, things like that. And we do have a few of those held on our kind of cloud storage. But what I don't have yet, and I plan to have, is, so whilst, for example, if I click on that, you can get a link to a GitHub link there to data. There might be something that's available that is maybe something in our, let's see, something in our systems. So for example, this one, a water temperature time series, which was described, we got the information from Natural Resources Wales, that they don't host that online, but we have the data because we've used the data in some publications. So it'd be nice to get a system where that data was made available through this. But the tricky thing is it's not our data, and so we're not able to share like a lot of it. So there are some, like if I put in timing, one data set that we created ourselves, we brought together a few kind of migration timing statistics from rivers around the UK and one in France. And we created our own data set from that, and it exists in the SalHub data store. It also exists on Knowledge Network for Biocomplexity, so we shared it through that. But what we do want to have is some kind of access to the files here. But again, it's development time, unfortunately. It's kind of the limiting factor just now. We have moved on to other aspects of the project, and this is kind of on a back burner just now. Can you still see it? If I share, is it still sharing?
Yeah. So after you submit a measurement into this portal, you can also go back to edit that, isn't if later on.
So at the moment, so we do have a log on, and the users do have access to like their submit history.
Right, that's
But
good.
unfortunately, I don't have again another feature to be added is basically the ability to edit those. However,
Okay.
you can I can edit them, so I
Mm.
can go into, if I dismiss that. I'm logged on as myself, so I'm the administrator, so I can add users,
Mm.
and I
Mm.
can select data sets
Mm.
and basically make
Mm.
edits to them. Get away from that one because it's maybe showing some people's emails that might not appreciate it. But
Mm. Yeah, so this platform, did you like develop from yourself or adapt
yeah,
from open source?
we developed it for ourselves, but it's written in R Shiny and it is available. I was going to show so I have a few GitHub organizations, um, and basically within my Missing Salmon Alliance organization, there's a few public web applications, sorry, a few public repositories, and
Mm,
this one here, LSF web application, is that that application basically. So
mm,
everything, warts and all, as they say, is in here. Hopefully no passwords. I think I've been quite careful, but this would be the place to go. And I think there is a paper out as well as part of this. I'm going to go back. So when you go to this interface, there's a link to the paper, which has more information on the graph
okay.
network and on
Yeah.
that GitHub page as well.
Okay, thanks. I'm asking because yesterday I was approached by someone ask is there any like existing platform for self-reported mental health measures?
Mm,
They are trying to make decision to build one from scratch themselves or adopt some existing platform. I can
mm.
see what you demo here is what they like after,
Yeah.
you capture the Salmon measures
Mm,
with all these schemas and ontology. They want to do similar for mental health measures.
mm.
I
Okay.
will pass on the link to them for look.
Yeah, yeah. Please
Yeah,
do, and
yeah.
feel free to tell them to feel free to contact me. I think that I think recreating this, it was one of my first ever Shiny applications.
Mm,
Actually, in fact, the second Shiny application I ever made. The first one was a simple kind of form. Um,
yeah.
first one was actually the first one was actually this one, which is a kind of is a similar thing, but it's projects rather than data. Um, and then I integrated it into this one as a
That's
whole.
great.
But
Yeah.
so the code is, yeah, it's not the best. I tried my best, but I'm not a programmer, so there's probably quite a lot of faux pas in there from a programming perspective. But I would happily help somebody set something up, and I think you could definitely change the wording and the vocabulary and
Yeah.
things like that to fit other domains.
Yeah. So if you don't mind, I shoot them email and including you to
Yeah, of course.
introduce to they are from Origin, that's a research non-profit research organization for youth health.
Mm,
But they are funded by Wellcome Trust to build these
okay.
self-reporting mental health measures.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's good
Yeah,
for
cool. Very good.
that's a good cause.
Yeah. So, and the last tool um, that I've been involved with, well, actually, this isn't the last one. We're also creating a decision support tool just now, but it's
Mm,
not as applicable to the kind of data mobilization question. Um, so this is a tool that we created to basically encourage people to share their tagging data. for fish. So there's already quite a big infrastructure for sharing acoustic tags, which are those tags that are actively sending a ping. They have a battery inside them and they send out a kind of a signal. Whereas these passive integrated tags, the PIT tags, are there's not as much. So there's a big one on the west coast of the US called Patagus, and it's really great. It's very comprehensive, but we had a very kind of niche use case, and we didn't have the same kind of the Patagus one is very kind of strict. You have to use a specific tag code and things like that. Whereas the taggers across kind of European countries are the codes are still one format, but not quite as strictly adhered to. So so we create basically a similar kind of idea. You know, this is a data drop kind of thing. You have your tag deployments and big lists of Excel files, and what we ask for is for people to just basically translate them into a template and then upload their template into this database. The template basically kind of processes this. The R script behind this processes the data, and then it ends up kind of on the database, and we have over 500,000 tags now, which is quite good, and across these countries here. I'm sure there's one up in top of Norway as well. And we're just trying to build out a user base across the Atlantic as well, to some of these countries. But the main goal of this is actually, it's like I say, it's quite a niche use case. We're really just trying to find out if we can get a database of these tag deployments, then if any tags are detected anywhere across, you know, by scanners anywhere across the Atlantic, then there's somewhere to go to find out who deployed that tag. And it's in particular, there are these blue squares represent pelagic fish processing plants. And basically all those plants are processing mackerel and herring catches, but a very, very small amount of salmon sometimes get caught up in those trawls. So the processing plants often have they have the PIT tag readers, and they often get unknown tag codes. And so those unknown lists of unknown tag codes come to us through certain channels, and we're able to pass them into this database, into a search, and find out if there's any matches. And basically, so far, there's been 5 matches, 4 of which were in the processing plants, 1 of which was actually captured on a river by an angler. So this is kind of one of those other our shiny tools that we've developed, and part of the development definitely had some, you know, has gone some way into my understanding of how to translate these standard tag code formats into lots of different you know, codes, because they can be represented in lots of different ways, binary through to hexadecimal through to decimal. And yeah, that's kind of it in a way.
Cool. We have already done a lot of work in this area.
Yeah, and it's I mean, it's been like I say, it's been 5 years since I started, and I don't know if I mentioned that, but I mentioned it to you prior to the meeting recording. Maybe I've been working in this place for this domain for 5 years now, and there's always new things coming up, and it's really interesting. And yeah, I do hope that our interest group and working groups take off. We've got 35 members now in the interest group. I do need to I hope to be a bit more proactive on the Atlantic side of things, to get some meetings set up, because the interest group meeting we currently have, it's at 5:30 p.m. UTC, I think, which is early morning for those on the Pacific eastern shores of the Pacific, but we need to create an Atlantic set of meetings too, which I will schedule up and put something in the posts for in the RDA interest group webpage.
Yeah, 5:30 UTC is like a 3:30 3:30 a.m.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe how many people like members in that in this interest group are from Pacific? Is able to tell?
I'm not sure.
Probably yeah, they don't sure. Probably that's feature. Probably we
Yeah.
need the
we-
RDA group and
Mhm.
RDA feature for the website to show the geography of that.
Yeah.
So because you know it takes chairs time to set up and organize those meetings, but if no people from that area to come in, that's yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think it might be about half and half just now,
Yeah.
because we did have a
Sure.
meeting in December, and it felt like there was actually that meeting felt like there was more Atlantic people attending.
Mhm.
But the kind of ongoing meeting that I'm involved in is mostly kind of Western
Mm.
North American people that come to that.
Yeah.
And we're also trying to bridge the gap over the Pacific as well. And I I think interestingly enough, I think the Australian time zones possibly align better with the European time zones, which I'm quite surprised at.
Yeah.
Like early morning for me, 8 a.m. is kind of 3 or 4 o'clock for you guys. So I think that
Yeah.
maybe that blows my mind.
Yeah. Um, and are you planning to have a session in the IDW week? That's December in Brisbane?
I've stopped sharing. Is that okay?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Maybe we
I
can stop recording as well.
yeah, maybe I don't know how to do that actually. Maybe
If
oh,
you
it's up.
in
Okay,
that record
yeah,
button, you
I'll do
click.
that.
Yeah.
Okay.